G'day everyone, and thanks for checking out my latest collection video. If you haven't watched my last one, jump on my channel and check it out because I did a pickups video where I got some really good games, and there's a particularly rare one at the very end of the video I think you'll like. For today's video, however, I wanted to talk about my collector's editions. As you can see, I've got some in front of me here. As you can't see, there's some under me, there's some beside me, there's some beside me over there, there's some in the kitchen, there's some under the camera, there's some behind the camera. Some in my computer room, some in my living room. It's disgusting. I have acquired so many of these things and they take up so much space. So I just wanted to talk about the ones that I own, maybe talk about the history behind them, talk about some of my favourites, some of my least favourites, some I regret spending disgusting amounts of money on, and maybe some that I really want to get in the future. I've definitely cooled down on collector's editions lately. I feel like it's not just me. I feel like publishers aren't pushing them as much anymore. Maybe interest has died down. I don't know, but I feel like nowadays there's far fewer collector's editions getting released than there was in the PS3 and 360 era. Maybe that's because there are less games. I don't know. As we think about collector's editions nowadays, we think about these big boxes filled with cheap plastic crap that no one in their right mind would ever spend hundreds of dollars on. Before we get into my collection, I thought I'd talk a little bit about collector's editions as we know them. As I was saying, these big boxes, usually with a figure or a statue, maybe an art book, maybe a soundtrack, maybe some DLC codes that we can get elsewhere most of the time. I feel like those types of collector's editions really didn't start to get popular until the Xbox 360 and PS3 era. I can almost see it now, a meeting of executives trying to decide how to nickel and dime us just that little bit more. Thank you for attending this meeting today. I've called you all here today to discuss our dwindling profit margins and what the hell we are doing to remedy this situation. Hello sir, we're pushing pre-order content as hard as we possibly can. Not only do we offer exclusive content on platform, we also offer retail exclusive content, and all these companies are giving us kickbacks. Good, I like to hear it. What else? We have online passes now, sir, so if people want to buy our product used, they will have to pay us $15 to play online. Good, I hate those pricks that buy our games used. What else? Hello, it's me again. We farmed out our PC version to a really cheap company, and we've only given them a couple months to push out a working product. Excellent. We only sold 800k units on the PC last year. I don't want to spend a cent on it. Hey, how about some microtransactions? Now you're speaking my language, is that all? People basically pre-order our DLC and save a really minuscule amount of money doing it. What a bunch of saps. I like it, though. That's pretty good. Is there anything else? I was thinking about maybe doing some collector's editions. So say like we ship our game with some night vision goggles. I found a company in a third world country that'll produce them for $5 a pop. We'll sell it for like an extra $80. Genius. Promote that, man. So over the years I've collected a lot of collector's editions, or as I was saying, limited editions, special editions, whatever you want to call them. And it's even for games that I absolutely had no interest in, like the Avatar, the movie game. I have a collector's edition with a really shitty figure in it. Why did I buy that? I don't know. I can only think of one that I've pre-ordered, and that's for Uncharted 4, and it's a fairly expensive edition with, I think, a figurine of Jake and a few other bits and pieces, so I'm really looking forward to that. But as for that, that's the only one I've pre-ordered. So I feel like before the 360 and the PS3 era of collector's editions, the reign of terror, there was probably very few publishers really pushing these special editions. We had a handful of niche sort of publishers publishing Japanese RPGs, and they were including these goodies like maps and colour artwork and soundtracks and etc. And maybe that was a way to drive more interest to their product, because normally their games were only bought by a really handful of people. You might notice that I'm being a bit console-centric, especially when I'm talking about old school collector's editions, so anything before the PS3 and 360 era. And that's not because I dislike PC. I actually have quite a big collection of PC games, especially big box. The reason why I'm mainly focusing on console games is because PC gamers back in the day were absolutely spoiled. Our games used to come in these big boxes. They'd come with maps, they'd come with big thick manuals, artwork, sometimes little collectibles, little knickknacks, and that was just standard. That was just part of buying a PC game back in the day. Nowadays, not so much. We're all on even footing now, and unfortunately, very few PC gamers are spoiled, and oftentimes they're actually shafted. It's very hard to be a PC-only player nowadays, but there are a few good publishers out there, so if you find some good ones, you should absolutely support them. Why don't we take a look through my collection of all my favourite collector's editions. We'll start with the old school ones. I've got a couple from the SNES era, which you'll be surprised. I've got a couple of PS1 collector's editions, a couple of PS2 collector's editions, and then you'll see the majority are actually PS3, 360 and onwards. Let's just get stuck in. So I've got some of my older collector's editions, which I'll show off first. Some PS1, PS2, a Dreamcast, a GameCube, and some Super Nintendo ones actually. Should be really cool. First up, I'll show off Tomb Raider collector's edition. This is the first 3 Tomb Raider games in a DVD style box. Apart from the package, there's really nothing else special about it. It's just the standard discs and manuals inside the DVD cases. Pretty cool to have. This version was actually only released in, I believe, Australia and New Zealand. United States had their own special edition, which was in a jewel case. Next up, on Dreamcast, we have Comic Party. This was a game that never made it out of Japan. I don't know a lot about it. Not really keen to try it out. It looks a bit Japanese. But hey, cool to have. I bought a heap of games off Japanese seller one day, and he gave me this for a few bucks as well. Comes with a bunch of goodies, so happy to have it. Probably never play it. Next up, we have Resident Evil 4 for the GameCube. As you can tell, I'm not doing these in any particular order. This is a collector's edition for GameCube and comes with a bonus disc. I believe on the bonus disc there's some demos for some of the other Resident Evil games on the GameCube. I don't even think they're playable demos. Next up is Raiho edition of Devil Summoner 2 on the PlayStation 2. This was one of a few actual special editions that came out near the end of the PS2 lifecycle. Mainly for Japanese style RPGs or strategy RPGs. I believe this one was published by Atlas, but there was some other ones I believe. I think it was published by Xseed, which I'm keen to pick up one day. Okay, this one's really cool. For the Super Nintendo we have Killer Instinct, and this version is really cool because it comes with not only the Killer Cut CD but also a watch. Such a weird special edition, but hey, I'm really happy to have it. I believe this was only released in PAL territories, so if you're looking to get it in USA, you're going to have to look overseas, I'm afraid. Next up, another Super Nintendo game, and we have Street Fighter 2 Turbo. This version actually came in a tin container and also came with a little pin and the game and manual and stuff. It's pretty cool to have. I believe this was another PAL exclusive. So yeah, happy with that. So next up on the Super Nintendo we have EarthBound. Now, a bit hesitant to call this a special edition because it was the only edition released in America. This came with a big player's guide with maps, hints, tricks, secrets, but it was the only edition released. And maybe the reason was Nintendo maybe thought, hang on, there's very little interest in this niche RPG, so we might try and drum up a bit of interest in the stores by selling it in this big box with this big player's guide to get people interested in it. I don't think it sold very well, but everyone knows EarthBound, and it's one of the most desired games on the system at the moment. Another game for the Super Nintendo that was released in a big box is Super Metroid. This also came with a big player's guide, but unlike EarthBound, this was actually a fairly popular game, so I don't know why Nintendo chose to do this. I don't believe the player's guide version actually came out in America. I could be wrong on that. Last but not least, we have 3 games on the PS1 that were released by Working Designs: Luna, Luna 2, and Arctilad. As you can see here. Amazing editions that came with a bunch of goodies, soundtracks, you name it, maps. Arctilad came with some pins. It's awesome. I believe these were the only editions released in America. Working Designs was classic for doing things like this, releasing their games with additional goodies. A lot of the games they published were niche Japanese RPGs, so again, like Nintendo, maybe they thought an easy way to drum up interest in their games in retail stores was to package them with all these goodies to get people, people walking in the stores interested in their stuff. So that's all my early stuff. Next up, we're going to look at some handheld special editions, so keep an eye out. So I've got all the collector's editions of all my handheld games, and I would just say PSP is awesome for collecting for, because there are so many really cool collector's editions that were released for it. So if you're interested, I highly recommend getting in the PSP collection, because the games are actually quite cheap and there is an abundance of really good games for the system. So first up we have Persona 2 for the PSP. This is a port of the original PlayStation game on the PSP with some bonus content. Really cool. Next up we have Persona 3 Portable, port of the PS2 game of course, with some additional content. Since we're on the Persona games, I may as well show off Shin Megami Tensei 4. This is actually a 3DS game. It comes with an art book, I believe, a soundtrack, maybe a few other bits and pieces, but that's cool to have. Up next is the DJ Portable 3 Max Edition for the PSP. This was a very limited collector's edition which you had to order from, I believe, the creator's website, and they're a company out of Korea, I believe, although I believe this was printed in America. Included in this edition is a soundtrack, the PSP game, an art book, and one lucky person who ordered this actually got a golden ticket which I believe gave them access to a very rare copy of the game. I could be wrong, I might have to look it up. But that's very cool to have. Next up we have Dissidia Final Fantasy for the PSP. This came with some art prints if you pre-ordered it. It also comes with an art book and the game, so very cool to have that. Next up for the 3DS is Sonic Classic Collection. This came in a big tin pack. It comes with some art prints and a few other goodies. Very cool to have that. Here's a good one, another great PSP game. I can't stress how good PSP is. You really should check it out if you've never played it. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. This is the limited edition. Unfortunately, it only came out in America. We didn't get it over here in Australia, so I had to order it online. I believe our dollar was tanking at the time, so it cost me probably double what it should have, but hey, I'm very glad to have it. So we're going to do a quick rapid fire of some PSP games now. First up we have The Third Birthday. It's a Parasite Eve sequel. Next up we have Kingdom Hearts, with some crazy subtitle that I probably can't even say. Trails of the Sky Platinum Edition, one of many great PSP games published by Xseed, and Xseed are really good because they include all these goodies with their games. Lord of Ocarina. I believe this was like an action sort of hack and slash RPG, if I remember correctly. As you can see, most of these are sealed. Luna Silver Star. This was a remake or a HDFI version of the original PS1 version. Fate Extra. Don't know too much about this. Probably based on, I guess, an anime or a manga or something. And Hakuoki for the PSP. This is a visual novel. I think this visual novel was more marketed towards girls. I think most of the romance options are actually guys. Never played it, probably never will. But the art style looks really cool. And then we've got a few more games over here. We've got Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together, brutal strategy RPG. One of the best on the system. And we've got 4 Wise games actually. We've got Wise 7, Wise the Oath of Felghana, and Wise 1 and 2 Chronicles. All published by the glorious Xseed. Great RPGs. Bit different if you're expecting something like a Final Fantasy, not your typical JRPG, but very cool. Obviously I can't show you too much of these because a lot of them are still sealed, so I apologise for that. And then we've got Ease, sorry. I know a lot of people call it Wise, a lot of people call it probably something else, but I believe it's pronounced Ease. And that's Memories of Celsius. Fuck if I know. This is for the PS Vita. And two more to finish it off. We've got the Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, and this is the Ocarina edition, which actually comes... It's not sealed, so I'll show you. It actually comes with an Ocarina. So we've obviously got 3DS game. And this cool little Ocarina it came with. I'll spare your ears and I won't play it because I have no idea how. It even comes with a little music sheet to play some of the songs from the game. Pretty awesome. And last but not least, probably the latest one I bought, Majora's Mask Special Edition for the 3DS. Very cool. Comes with an art book, a few other little bits and pieces. I'm actually really excited to play this because I was always a bit turned off from Majora's Mask because of the time limit. But now I regret it because apparently it's a very good game. So that's it for my collector's editions for my handheld consoles. Next up we're going to look at all my PS3, PS4, I've got a few Xbox games and a lot of PC games. That will probably be part 2, which I might upload maybe next week. So until then, catch you later.